3 teens were murdered, a 14-year-old alleged killer vanished, and then his father was taken into custody. Many believed that he should be charged with murder, and he was. But should his father pay the price? How culpable are parents when it comes to their underage children's crimes? How much involvement did this father really have, and was he involved in helping aid his son in fleeing the country? Where is Abel Aosta? You are such a genuine gem. Thank you for clicking on my video. I am Brooke Makenna, and here we focus on the victims over the killers every single time. So please subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below. I also want to thank our sponsors who allow me to continue to tell these stories, and today is Royal Cooking. Have you ever dreamed of running your own restaurant empire? Well, you can with Royal Cooking. You're not just cooking though, you're actually taking orders, you're earning coins, you can invest those in your kitchen so you can upgrade your equipment, you can have premium ingredients, and you can add a personal flair to each dish. The best part is that if customers are happy, you can earn those coins to unlock new challenges and new restaurants, and you can travel the world through food. It honestly brings me back to my childhood joy of just playing pretend and getting to, you know, when you're little and you take the orders of your family members and you give them the fake food. It honestly just brings back that nostalgic feeling, and I cannot stop playing. It brings me so much joy. Plus, it genuinely engages my brain. So I have been loving it, and you can download Royal Cooking for free on the App Store or Google Play. Check the link in my description. If you're ready to become a top chef, you can start your culinary journey today. Just click the link below. Now let's get back to the story. December 26th of 2021, police were called to the Texaco gas station in Garland, Texas. Garland police arrived at 730 West Walnut Street that evening to find 4 victims, but 3 victims deceased. They all appeared to be teenagers as well. Each had gunshot wounds, and CCTV footage of the incident was located inside of the gas station. They had cameras on the interior and the exterior, and upon first glance, it appeared as though there were lots of different customers coming in and out, but when a white Dodge Ram pickup pulled into the store's parking lot around 8:50 that evening, he exited the passenger side of this vehicle. He walked behind the truck up against one of the exterior walls of the gas station, and then he walked up to the front door, ducking under the window. Then he popped out, opened the door, and put his gun inside of the gas station and began to fire. The victims inside were found to be 14-year-old Xavier Gonzalez, who had been shot 10 times, 16-year-old Yvonne Noyola, who was shot 4 times, and 17-year-old Rafael Garcia, who was shot twice, once in the heart. 14-year-old Xavier was known to be a boy who could make everyone laugh. He was always joking around. He had a lot of goals. He was always pushing forward, and he wanted to be just like his uncle, who owned a construction company. He attended Garland High School. He played football there. He loved the Dallas Cowboys, and he was described by family as a hardworking, intelligent, and vibrant boy. He was also an outstanding big and little brother to his 3 sisters. He prioritized family over everything. He also had a girlfriend who he was in love with and wanted to marry one day. He had been texting her right before the shooting occurred. Xavier had been at this gas station picking up tacos for his family, specifically his grandfather, who he was really close to, for dinner that night. His autopsy revealed that he was shot 10 times and he would have likely died within 2 or 3 minutes. 16-year-old Ivan Noyola was described as being very kind, very helpful. His childhood was described as heavy, but he never showed it. He tried to be extremely strong. His father said that he was hardworking, he was happy, and he was a child who just liked to have fun. His autopsy showed that there was damage to his lungs, and he would have lost consciousness within seconds to minutes. 17-year-old Rafael Garcia Rayo was born November 9th of 2004. He had 9 siblings, 4 brothers, and 5 sisters. He was described as kind, friendly, with a big smile. He was hardworking, humble, and caring. He loved playing soccer and football. His sister said that he would go into his mother's room just to tell her that he loved her. His autopsy revealed that he would have had seconds to live after the shot pierced his heart. The survivor was also a teen boy who worked as a cook inside of the restaurant at the gas station. He was wounded, critically injured, and sent to the hospital. He was identified as 14-year-old David Rodriguez, who had been shot in the chest. Now, upon further examination of the CCTV footage of what led up to the shooting and the time period right before, Detective Lucas Shoup, who is the lead detective on the case, would explain that this white pickup truck that pulled into the lot had two occupants. There was the adult male driver and the teen passenger. The teen did not leave the vehicle first upon arrival. Instead, it was the adult male who went into the store, purchased medicine, looked around the store. He then returned to the truck and appeared to be talking to the passenger. They were both seen kind of pointing inside of the store, speaking. You could see it through the windshield. The truck then backed up, circled around the store through the fuel pumps, then left view of the camera briefly before returning. This time, the teen exited the truck. He was in a baseball cap and a surgical mask. He was wearing dark shorts, dark colored slides, and no shirt. He then headed to the front of the store, opened the door, placed the gun inside, and began shooting. But 20 rounds were found to have been fired from a .40 caliber pistol with an extended magazine. CCTV footage showed that Xavier was the first and the youngest person shot. He was standing just inside the door and was hit when the gun was placed inside first. He had been shot multiple times before the killer even stepped inside. But when they did, they found Xavier lying on the ground, and they stood over him and shot him multiple times in the shoulder and back and killed him. Ivan and Raphael, who appeared to be together in the store, had been injured by the gunfire, and then they watched Xavier being shot at close range, and they attempted to flee. But instead of escaping, they were shot in the back and killed as well. The teen killer then aimed at the employee of the store, David, shooting him in the chest before running back outside to the truck, and then the truck sped away. Now, while searching for these two individuals as well as the truck scene and the footage, they focused on the adult male and the large tattoo on his lower left arm. His face was also clearly visible. He did not have anything to conceal his identity, so they were able to grab a screen capture of his face. They were also able to note an identifying factor on the Dodge Ram pickup, which was a long black scrape along the side. Of course, the teen was wearing a mask and a baseball cap, so it was a bit harder to identify him.
Rodolfo Sanchez told me he was home last night when he got a frantic call from the employee saying he had just been shot.
The guy, he say, "Oh, you need to come in quickly." I say, "Okay, I'll be there like 5 minutes, as soon as possible." Yeah. But when I come in, the police is right there. I'm scary, man, because we work like a family. I'm sorry, like, for this happened, and apologize for the victims.
But it would be the very next day that a man would walk into the Garland Police Department. He identified himself as Richard Aosta. He said he wanted to know what was going on. He was there to answer any of their questions, and he had seen a photo of himself and his truck on the news. He said that his wife dropped him off and they weren't sure how long that they would need him in the department. When asked about his truck, he stated that it was parked at Walmart. He had gone to a job with his boss that day. They had met at Walmart. It was then seized for a search.
Are you trying to pick that truck? Yeah.
So police then decided to tell Richard Aosta that they had the shooter in custody. And Richard said, good. Now, they really wanted to see what his reaction would have been at this time, and were surprised at his response. But when they told Richard Aosta that he was being arrested for murder and his bond was $3 million, he laughed because he did not believe what they were saying. An affidavit for arrest had been filed for Richard Aosta by Detective Lucas Shoup, stating that he had good reason to believe that Richard Aosta did commit the offense of capital murder of multiple persons. Detective Shoup stated that he had arrived at the scene after the 3 victims were pronounced dead and the survivor had gone to the hospital. He found one victim on the floor in the dining room area of the meat market of the gas station. A second victim was on the floor in the far west side of the dining area in the hallway for the bathrooms. And the third victim was on the far southeast corner of the building in front of the drink coolers. Detective Shoup had investigated prior offenses at this location and knew that they had CCTV, both exterior and interior, so he went to look for it. Now, victim Ivan Noyola's father arrived at the scene shortly after the shooting and after the police, stating that his wife had received a call from her brother that Ivan had been shot there. He provided a physical description of his son, and the detective matched this to the victim in the southeast corner of the building near the drink coolers. Victim Xavier Gonzalez's uncle went to the police shortly after, stating that his nephew had not returned after being dropped off at Texaco. The description matched the victim lying in the dining area. Victim Raphael's sister had shown up in the police department, stating that she had heard that her brother had been shot and wanted to know the status. They were informed that he was in fact deceased and asked if they knew anyone who would want to harm their brother. They said no, but she did say back in March, about 8 months prior, Raphael had been reported as a runaway and he was staying with different friends. They had last spoken to him on Christmas Eve 2 days prior, though, and said that he was in good spirits. He just didn't want to be at home. Raphael is believed to be the victim in the far west side of the dining area near the bathrooms. So Maria, who was Raphael's sister, had told the police that Raphael had gone to live with his friends, and the actual name of the friend was redacted from the affidavit at this point, but she stated that that particular friend she wasn't necessarily fond of, and the whole family wasn't. But he was a skinny kid who was really good friends with Raphael. The officers claimed at this point they had yet to hear his name, so it was believed that this was not Ivan that Maria was speaking about, because of course Ivan was one of the victims here. She was asked if Raphael was affiliated with any sort of gangs, and she said no, but he did post photos of himself with guns on Instagram. She sent the police a photo of him doing so, and also sent a photo of his friend wearing dark clothing and a ski mask and pointing a silver and black handgun with an extended clip at the camera. Maria would later send police messages that she began getting from an anonymous account that read, "Yo brother dead AF." The second message stated, "It's y'all fault." The last message from this account, N $B5L. I'm a die behind that. Now, while I have no idea what most of that statement says, the N $B5L was an acronym for the North Side Blood for Life, an alleged gang. Maria was asked if she believed that Raphael's friend that he was staying with could have been involved, and she said that she believes whoever did this was looking for that friend and they were after him, not Raphael. Now, investigators requested Instagram send over the data from that account sending the messages, and they received a phone number in connection to the creation of the account. This provider was found to be T-Mobile, so T-Mobile then was requested to send information in regards to the number, and it was listed an address in Garland. They had an exact address, so they went to the local high school, believing that this was a teen that was the killer and that also the account belonged to. They were informed that several students actually showed this address as their own, students who were not biological siblings. So they were believed to be friends living together. Photographs of all these students were given to the police, and one appeared to match the suspect involved in the murder of the 3 teens. His Facebook page showed a photo of him wearing a bracelet that he was also seen wearing at the gas station that night. So at this point, the police announced that they were actually taking in a 14-year-old as a possible suspect. This 14-year-old was believed to be the shooter, and he was believed to be involved in another police report back about a month prior to the murders. So a ping was initiated on this 14-year-old's phone for its exact location. A search warrant was obtained. It was executed on December 27th.
The police department immediately called in a team of investigators who worked throughout the night to track down every lead. And I can tell you, as of 30 minutes ago, we have made an arrest of someone that we suspect to be the shooter. And he is a 14-year-old teenager that we're speaking with right now. I will tell you that there is a second person that we're looking for. We have one person in custody, but there is a second. And right now, we don't know who he is. So we are asking the public's help in identifying the subject. It's difficult for me, it's difficult for our officers, and it's difficult for our community, because we want to know why. We don't have an answer to why. We're trying to comprehend this, and we don't yet comprehend this.
And the day after, Garland Police SWAT detained this 14-year-old and took him in for questioning. Now, he stated that he was aware of what was happening the night before. He had seen it on the news. He had spoken to people. He was in group chats with several people. And that what he had learned was that there were several kids in a truck and that only one got out and ran into the store. But this teen being questioned didn't have correct information because he would state that it was Raphael, Ivan, and another teen whose name was redacted that were killed. But he never mentioned Xavier. He said that the teens were killed because the teens in the truck believed that they had threatened them. So this 14-year-old teen being questioned said that he was never at the gas station. He was never in the pickup truck. He just knew this information from other people. He seemed to be cooperating. There was nothing to link him to this crime, so he was released with no charges. Garland police stated that he was detained on a warrant and initially believed to be the shooter, but he was determined not to be, and he still remained a person of interest. He was said to have intimate knowledge of the shooting, but no information directly to link him. This questioning of this 14-year-old and his release was just before Richard Aosta came into the police department to turn himself in. Well, kind of, because like we discussed, he wasn't necessarily turning himself in. He was more willing to speak to investigators and willing to be this witness for this shooting. While Richard Aosta was charged with capital murder of multiple persons, he was not believed to be the killer. He was believed to be the getaway driver. So who was the teen? Well, Richard had a 14-year-old son named Abel Aosta, a teen who matched the description of the gunman. The problem? Abel was missing and had been missing since that evening. He was not the same 14-year-old who had been questioned and released. A press conference was held on the 27th by Garland police.
I don't know if it was targeted. I can tell you that the two of the individuals came in together, so we know that they were together. We see more things in a year or a month than people see in a lifetime, but when it's kids, when it's 14 and 16-year-old kids committing acts and victims of acts, it's even harder for us to comprehend that. We have kids, I have kids about the same age. Between the four of them, we don't believe, or we have not seen any indication that the four of them as a group knew each other.
The families wanted justice for every single one of the victims, but the gunman was still a wanted man, or should we say boy. By December 29th, Garland police decided to identify the minor and charge 14-year-old Abel Aosta with capital murder without having him in custody. They warned the public that this boy was at large, armed, and dangerous. Abel Elias Aosta was described as light-skinned Hispanic male with dark hair, brown eyes, at 5'5" and 125 pounds. A directive to apprehend the shooting suspect in triple murder released his name and named him the son of Richard Aosta. A $10,000 reward was offered for information. Lieutenant Barano stated that he was actively evading capture. He said somebody knows where he's at. He's not doing this on his own. He's only 14. Police began to believe that retaliation was a possible motive for the murders and that at least one of the victims inside of the convenience store who was shot was involved in a prior disturbance with Abel Aosta. Now, victim Xavier's family stated that he was not one of the victims previously involved. He had nothing to do with these other boys. He was just a 14-year-old who was buying food for his grandfather. He was an innocent bystander. Victim Yvonne's family stated, "We honestly don't know any reason if there was a conflict between the two or if he just went in there with his goal in mind to just shoot at our cousin. All we know that he did what he did, not even caring about the pain that he was going to leave behind." Now, they explained that Ivan and Raphael were actually close friends. They were working together, they were living together for about a month, and they went to get food together that day. By January of 2022, Richard Aosta's attorney went public with Richard's version of events. His defense claimed that he had no idea that his son had a gun or what he planned to do that day. He went to the store to pick up medicine for his wife, and when he got back, his son said he needed something and went inside alone. His dad then heard gunfire and didn't know the source, but his son then came back hysterical into the pickup truck and told him to go because somebody was shooting, and Richard drove them home. Richard said that the only reason that he left the store in that manner was because there were shots being fired and he didn't know who was firing. By February of 2022, 33-year-old Richard Aosta was indicted by the Dallas County grand jury, who charged him with capital murder for driving his son to the gas station and acting as a getaway driver. He was being held on $1 million bond. According to Texas law, since police believed that both the father and son were aware of the incident, they were both equally as responsible and could be charged as such. This is something that is greatly debated. Leave your opinions down below. But Lieutenant Richard Aosta told NBC5 that detectives were still actively working this case to find Abel, and that it was extremely difficult when someone just drops off the map. They said that they were working with the U.S. Marshal Services, tracking down leads daily to find the killer's son. Police do have evidence that he could have gone to Mexico. The family had gone there in the past. They both have relatives on each side of the family, and they also have received tips that he could be there, but not specifically where. But there have been a few people who have given the same tip. While Abel remained missing, his father went on trial for the murders in February of 2023. The prosecution opened the trial with, "It takes 9 seconds for him to fire 20 rounds, shooting and killing those 3 kids and injuring another. All the while, this defendant has his foot on the brake, the truck in drive, waiting. Actions speak louder than words." Richard Aosta's lawyer claimed that he was simply watching the Dallas Cowboys game at the time of the shooting, and he didn't know what was happening. The prosecution stated that he aided in the execution of 3 boys. The defense countered that he didn't know that he was aiding his son before, during, or after. They said hearing shots does not mean that he saw what happened. He told you he didn't see it. Now, victim Ivan's uncle testified with a translator and stated that Ivan and Raphael lived with him and his mom for about a month prior, and that day he drove to this Texaco gas station and they were going to pick up tacos for dinner. He parked his vehicle in the lot. Ivan got out first, then Raphael, and they went inside. And that is actually when a truck, which turned out to be Richard Aosta's truck, clipped him. It was going really fast in the parking lot. The truck stopped, but no one ever got out, so they didn't end up talking about what had happened. But the uncle said that he then watched the teen, believed to be Abel, exit the vehicle and open fire inside. He said it all happened so fast, and he thought it was a prank because Abel was hiding at first. His uncle started to get really emotional on the stand when describing that he rushed into the store and he found his nephew covered in blood. He said he tried to place him sideways so he didn't drown in the blood, and he told him not to die, but he knew it was too late. He was the person who called 911. The first officer on the scene testified that he was alone when he arrived. He heard screaming and crying. He opened the door and he saw a young male lying on the ground with blood and bullet casings everywhere. He began to perform CPR on one of the teens, and when another officer finally arrived, he took over CPR, and the first officer began to clear the scene and make sure the shooter was no longer there. He found the 2 other victims and the other survivor, and there was also another girl in there as well that was a survivor. You see, David Rodriguez actually had a cousin there, a female, who was unharmed during the shooting, who held compression on his wound, which likely helped him survive. David stated he didn't know the shooter. Detective Shoups testified that it appeared in the CCTV that Richard was casing the location prior to his son going in. When Abel had gone inside and then jumped back in the truck, before that car door was even closed, the truck was pulling forward out of the lot as though it was trying to make a getaway. The detective also testified that the long black scrape across the truck that was identifiable was removed or attempted to be removed before the truck was dropped off at Walmart. In his opinion, this father and son made attempts to conceal the identity of the vehicle, and phone records also show that Richard Aosta and his wife's cell phones pinged in Fort Worth the night of the murder, only hours later. Now, Fort Worth was where his wife's sister lived. They arrived around 12:55 in the morning and remained there until 6 a.m. when Richard's phone moved to that Walmart parking lot, and then he called his wife. Many believe that this could be the first step in finding the missing killer, Abel Aosta. But firearms experts testified that they collected 2 weapons from the Aosta home that actually did not match the shell casings inside the convenience store. However, fingerprints of Abel Aosta were found on the front door of Texaco and inside the truck. Richard then testified in his own defense. He would state that Christmas was the day prior, and it was a magical time for his family. They were all together. Richard received a black .45 handgun from his wife as a present. The next day, Richard, Abel, and Abel's 8-year-old brother, as well as their grandmother, went to the North Park Mall to return a gift that Abel didn't like. They then went to another store around 2:30. They went to Home Depot to purchase a fireplace, and then they went home. But Abel had gotten cash for Christmas and asked his dad to take him to the Firewheel Mall so he could meet a friend. Richard dropped him off, went back home, and then Abel texted him around 6:30 saying to pick him up later on. Richard then got a text from a boy named Jeremias to pick Abel up, so he did a little after 6:30. Abel was wearing black shorts and flip-flops and had a small boy with him that he asked his dad if they could give a ride to. They dropped the boy off, they stopped at Kroger, they picked up a grocery list that his pregnant wife needed, and Richard stated that he did not see a gun on Abel for any of this. After they left Kroger, Richard then got a text from his wife asking for Tylenol, so that's why they stopped at Texaco on the way home. He said none of that was planned. Richard said at Texaco he left the truck running because it was supposed to be a very quick in and out. He noticed the 3 boys when he went inside. They were going to the game room or the smoke shop, and he had never seen them before. He got into the truck, and Abel actually started asking him questions about the guys, if they had talked to him when he walked in, what they told him. And Richard told his son that they hadn't said anything and asked if he knew them. He said that he did know them. Richard said that he didn't seem angry. He just said that the guys had his necklace and he wanted to ask them about it. There was nothing alarming. So at this point, Richard didn't want to argue. He let Abel go into the store, asked the boys about his necklace. Richard explained that Abel had become very rebellious recently. He would run away, talk back to his mom. He was reported as a runaway. He had gotten into a bad argument with his father. And so while Abel got out, Richard said that he was aggressive, but he didn't see him with a gun.
So when I get to the car, my son's just like asking me if, I guess when I walked in, the guys had looked at me and he asked me, what did those guys tell you? I said, nothing at all. I go, do you know them or something? And he said, yes, I do know them. I had asked him what guys, because, I mean, it was full of people in there. And then he pointed directly towards that direction, you know, and said, those guys right there. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful or anything towards his haircut or anything, because I had the similar haircut when I was young. So I told my son, like, were you talking about the guy with the mullet that's in there? And my son asked me, he goes, what's a mullet? And I kind of explained to him what it was, and he was laughing, because I kind of said kind of casual in the front and party in the back, and we both thought it was funny. But I told him, like, I had the same haircut, and I go, you know, I'll show you. I didn't think nothing of it, honestly. I just thought he was just going to ask him a question or whereabouts of his necklace, you know, but nothing where it alarmed me. As I start to turn through the pump, my son's telling me, hey, Dad, let me get off real fast. And I told him no. I go, just wait, you know, give me a minute. And as soon as I start going, he acts like he's going to open the door, and I grab his shirt. I told him just to give me a second, you know, relax. And when I told him to relax, he takes off his shirt. As soon as he starts taking off his shirt, I accidentally hit the man's truck that was parked in there, a white truck. Well, he had came out of his shirt, and he was just talking crazy to me, basically telling me, you know, not putting my hands on him and to relax, and, you know, and I was upset because I told him, you know, you just made me hit this man's truck. Yeah, I had told him, I go, hey, I'll go in there and ask him where your necklace is, because they looked a little bit bigger than him and older, you know. I didn't know what was going on. He definitely didn't want me to. He started even getting a little bit more angrier. So I told him to hurry up. I go, if you're going to get off, just go real fast. Get your stuff, dude, or ask them whatever, you know, who has your necklace. I go, but if they don't know, just leave it alone. I'll buy you another one. You know, don't make a big deal about it. Don't make a big deal about it. Let's just go home. Let's just please watch this game. Let's have a good night, you know.
Richard said that while Abel went inside, he turned on the football game on his phone. He was waiting, and he was also watching to see if the owner of the truck that he had hit was going to come talk to him about it. He said that he told his son to hurry, so he never even put the truck in park. He had his foot on the brake. He said he then heard shots, and he got down in the truck. But when it stopped, he then looked up at the gas station to see if he could see Abel, and at that point, Abel was opening the back door, got in.
I just heard several shots shocked, but not to put a number on it. I looked back through the space that I had from my 2 seats to face basically this way, just to look back, see if I could see my son, because that's where my son was headed, and I knew that's where he was going to go. He says, "Get out, somebody's shooting." He goes, "Get me out of here." I was scared for his safety and mine. I didn't know what was going on. He's real scared, and I'm asking him if he's okay physically because I can't see him. And I'm driving. I'm just trying to get out of there, and I'm asking him if he's okay.
He said that he tried to talk to Abel about it, and he said to give him some time, but when they arrived home, he went upstairs and was acting like a caged animal in his room, pacing around. He then started playing video games. He refused food. And about a few hours later, Richard had to leave the house again to get his wife a heating pad, and when he went to check on Abel when he got home, he was no longer there. That was the last time that they had seen Abel, according to Richard. And around midnight that night, Richard said that he went to Fort Worth. He took both his and his wife's phones because his wife was sick, and he wanted to be able to contact Abel if he called. But his wife had family in Fort Worth. Her sister lived there, and so Abel had been talking about wanting to go bowling with that cousin, so Richard believed that maybe he could have gone there on his own that night. So he stayed there for the next few hours, and then the next morning he went back home. He washed his car, he parked it at Walmart so his boss could pick him up for a remodeling job. He said he worked until about 4 p.m. that day when he got a text from a friend saying to turn himself in because there were photos of him online that said that he was a person of interest. He said until then he did not know that anybody got shot at that store. But at this job he didn't have a car because his boss had driven him, so he called his wife to come and pick him up and take him to Garland Police.
Yeah, because he sent me the picture and I did hear shots, so I knew something was, they wanted to talk to me. Maybe thought I saw something or I could help them in something. And they had booked me in. They did my fingerprints. They did a mouth swab with me. And then I asked them how much my bond was. The lady tells me it's $3 million. And this is when they're taking a picture of me. And I thought she was playing. I really did. And I go, what are they even charging me with? Because nobody's told me anything. She said, capital murder. And your bond's $3 million. And that's why I laughed, because I thought she was playing. I really did. And that's when the picture was taken. But nobody told me at all that I was being arrested for anything, for that type of situation. I'm his father. I just wanted to protect him, and I didn't know what was going on or where these shots were even coming from. But as a father, I'm there to protect him. Makes me feel horrible for the families. This is the most horrible thing that I've ever seen him.
So on the stand, he said that he didn't know where Abel was. He didn't know that he was the alleged shooter.
We don't know if he's alive. Nobody knows if he's even breathing or anything. Nobody knows. I have no idea why he would have a gun. I have no idea what he had, I guess, in his other secret life. I don't know what he had going on. It's the most horrible thing. I can't even imagine how the families feel, and we all lost a son that day. I lost my son. I will never get to see my son again. Lost my son regardless. He's going to spend the rest of his life in a prison.
Richard went on to say if his son was caught, he should go to prison for the killing, but that he had nothing to do with it. He said he would have tried to stop any situation if he knew he was going to try to harm somebody. So many had differing opinions of this father of the killer fugitive and if he should be charged with murder and ultimately pay the price of his son. The victims' families, of course, wanted justice, and due to the fact that Abel was a missing boy, he was the only hope they had. Xavier's aunt said that he was a part of it, just as responsible, and he should face life without parole. Ivan's father stated that Richard is guilty because he took his son to the store and he wanted the maximum sentence. After 3 hours of deliberation, Richard Aosta was then found guilty of capital murder and was sentenced to life without parole. The jury believed that Richard had helped his son fatally shoot the 3 teens by serving as a getaway driver and then helped his son escape, possibly out of the country. Richard showed no emotion. His defense attorney stated, "I hope and pray that they do catch Abel Aosta. Maybe he will really tell them what happened that day." The prosecution, as well as the victims' families, believed that justice was only half done without having Abel. Family members of the victims then got to speak to the convicted.
My name is Ruby Herrera. I'm Xavier's older sister. You know, most siblings, like younger siblings, they don't want anything to do with their older siblings, especially when they're in school together. But not Xavier. He would, if he saw me in the hallway, he would still come run up to me, hug me, say hi to me. Even, normally they don't like to do that, but he did. He was my little brother, but he was really everyone's little brother in my family. He was such a key figure in my family, and he was always there. Everybody loved him. Everybody knew him. That night that I found out constantly replays in my mind so vividly. From the moment that I got the call, from the moment that I went to the gas station, from the moment that we had to tell my grandma what we found out, and the wail that she let out when she found out constantly replays in my mind to this day, a year later. I sat here the majority of the week, or I watched it at home, and I watched the whole court, and I watched the gallivanting around the court. I watched the video here. I watched my brother get shot 10 times. I watched Abel look directly at him, cowering on the ground, covering himself with the chair, and shot him 10 times. Someone that he had no relation to. And I watched his father feign ignorance to his son's actions. My brother was a good kid. Was he perfect? No, he was human. But he was a good kid, and he didn't deserve what happened to him. None of the victims deserved what happened to them.
Rafael was one of the sweetest, funny boys you could ever meet. Anyone that ever knew him has always spoken so well of him. Always very respectful to anyone he has came across with. Not in a million years did he deserve what your son did, along with the actions that you took to aid him. Rafael no longer has the option to experience or enjoy new things in life. So why should you?
Ivan's uncle, who spoke in Spanish, told Richard that his actions that night left a hole in the family's heart. In 2026, it has been 5 years since these murders, and Garland police still don't have Abel in custody, but they did update the public on the fact that Xavier Gonzalez was not in any way, shape, or form associated with the other teens. They stated that Abel Aosta was believed to be part of a gang with at least 2 of the other victims, Ivan and Rafael, who had once been acquaintances of him. Detective Shoup believed the relationships had fractured months prior, and prior incidents had occurred between the groups, but it was not believed to be a random attack. He said that there is a kid out there responsible for murders, and he is a danger to the public. It is not believed that he escaped alone, but after 5 years, they don't know his location. America's Most Wanted have highlighted this case, and Abel Aosta would be 18 years old now. Xavier's mother said, "Don't be scared. Just come out and say where he's at. It's not fair. A 14-year-old took my son's life away for no reason." So if you have information of Abel Acosta's whereabouts, contact the Garland police or submit an anonymous tip through Crime Stoppers. Should this father have been charged with murder? Do you believe that he knew his son's intentions? When did he know, if so? Was it before the murders? During? After? Did he aid in his son becoming a fugitive and possibly fleeing the country? How do you think Abel has survived the past 5 years? Is it really with relatives somewhere? Do you think he's still alive? Is he in Mexico? Do you believe Richard? Or is his whole story made up? Is he the kind of father who would allow his son to get away with murder, completely take the rap for it? How culpable are parents when it comes to their underage children's crimes? In this case, of course, Richard was at the crime scene when this all occurred, which makes it a bit different. But there have been cases where parents who have not been at the crime scene have been found guilty, have been charged with crimes connected to crimes that their children have committed. What are your opinions on this? Is life without parole a fair sentence for a getaway driver of a murder when his son cannot be located and he possibly aided in his disappearance? This breaks my heart that after 5 years, they still have not gotten justice. And a teen killer is just getting to grow up somewhere and not face the consequences of his actions. I think Xavier Gonzalez breaks my heart the most, as he was just this innocent bystander who had nothing to do with any of this. And not only was he just caught in, you can't even say crossfire because they weren't shooting at each other, he was caught in the firing, the random firing when the gun was first placed inside the store. But this teen went up to this boy who he knew he didn't know, allegedly, and shot him until he was killed. That is brutal. That is monstrous. And it just proves even more that Abel Aosta needs to be caught and needs to be imprisoned. I hope that in sharing this case, it kind of renews some interest. We get the photo out there, and hopefully he is turned in. If you know where he is, even if you are family, you know you need to do the right thing. This boy needs serious help. He needs to face the consequences, or he could forever believe that he is capable of getting away with murder. And this could be something that's not just a one-time thing. So thank you so much for listening. Again, download Royal Cooking with my link down below. And don't forget to speak up. Your voice is powerful enough, and I love you to absolute pieces. Okay.